Here we go. Steve, it's a momentous occasion tonight.
It is. It is.
It is. Yeah. Why don't you
Sorry.
fucking clear your throat, man? This is
Well, I'm waiting for you to go live. I'm just
you.
getting ready.
You need to be professional
I am
tonight.
not. There's no professionalism in me.
I'm very upset with your lack of professionalism.
I'm sorry. I guess Joe Mastriani was right.
Joe, yes, yes. If we can go back now to the very beginnings of this show, Joe Mastriani was correct.
There's
Uh,
not a lick of professionalism going on here.
no, no. So, are we ready to do this, Steve?
Yeah, I think so.
This is the Fortean Slip, episode 25. John Titor.
That's it.
That's all you need.
That's all. The whole title.
Well, I was gonna say revealed, but it's more like he speaks. He's gonna be interviewed. I'm gonna change it up afterwards, but you can't once you've put it in. So
We've
it's
got John
it's
Titor.
fucking John Titor, Steve.
Nice.
Um, joining us tonight, John.
Yes.
He is there.
Awesome.
John. Excuse me. Now I'm like you, Steve. I'm friggin' got phlegm in my throat and everything.
It's catchy.
I know, right? Over the internet. So my fascination with the John Titor story, John, began years ago. I used to rent a room from a friend of mine, and he worked the night shift at a rehab hospital, and I worked during the day. And he got up one night to go to work, and his door was kind of diagonal from mine. And when he popped out, he popped his head in my door, and he's like, "Hey, I got this thing I need you to check out. It was a CD, and it was a coast to coast episode." And he's like, "It's about this time traveler." He's like, "You should just check it out." So I popped in this CD, and it's an interview with I want to say it was Nori and Oliver Williams, and it was like, I don't know, like 2 hours long or some shit like that. I listened to the whole episode anyway. And then I went to the johntitor.com website and immersed myself for days in the posts, the assorted pictures and everything that was there. And I just went head over heels in. Now, to be completely honest with you, and it is not to hose you or anything like that, I kind of fell out of it because a lot of the stuff that was said would happen didn't necessarily happen, or didn't happen, or whatnot. So I didn't know what to think of it. Although there were some people who said that, well, when he came, he changed certain things in this timeline, and that's why these other things didn't happen. Plus, we're a divergent timeline from his anyway. Yada yada yada. I don't know the truth of the matter. I don't claim to know all the facts. It was a very interesting story that drew me in deep, and I sat there for days. I don't know how much Steve got into the story. I know we've talked about it many times.
I wasn't even aware of the story until you brought me into it. Then I went back and looked, and I was immersed in it for a few days.
Yeah, you just get lost.
Yeah,
you get totally fucking lost. So we've talked about you many times on the show. So to give you an idea of where we're at with this whole story, experience, whatever, if that makes sense.
All right.
So
that makes sense.
Okay.
And after I get a chance to give you the origins of John Titor, you'll get a good laugh.
Oh,
Titor.
so it's Titor, not
All
Titor.
right.
It's tighter.
It's
Oh.
been debated on this show. I mean, I thought it was Titor, but it's been debated on this
But
show.
that's because Steve likes to say tit.
I like
John.
to say tit. There's nothing wrong with that.
John, Steve is like a small child who's just found his penis. And he
Said
just wants to
penis.
show it off to the world.
That's too bad.
No, it's perfectly all right. Come on now.
Is it over a foot long?
That's for my wife to know and nobody else to find out.
I mean, if you're obsessed with it, then it must be pretty big, really.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, Steve.
answer.
Come on.
Like
give us a measurement, Steve. We've got John Titor, Titor here. Excuse me.
Tighter. We're gonna have to rearrange the way we speak now.
I know
We've
exactly.
been doing it wrong all these years.
So, John, if you would, I guess fill us in.
All right. I'm going to tell you what I know, and some of this is directly out of the mouth of the CIA.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Art Bell, Oliver Williams. They created the first John Titor on radio.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Okay? I really don't. I will tell you, I'm John Titor too, for the very reason of what they did on radio. And in talking to the CIA within the last year, they tell me there was another John Titor, and he's dead. And so, me being John Titor too, we're not. The only way we're connected is we were both cloned at the same place, and they cloned thousands. They won't tell you how many they cloned. They're all expendable, and we were cloned at Dulce Base.
So wait. Hold on just a second, John. I don't mean to interrupt you.
I'm getting to the name now. Just give me a little more.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
You just said that you're a clone. Now, does this mean that this changes the whole your parentage in Florida?
This changes everything.
Okay.
Whatever Larry Haber wrote down, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Scrap that.
Okay.
You can't time travel with a car either. Even if it's a Corvette or a late model Chevy, it won't work. All right.
So what you're saying is the entire first story just a figment of art? Or what was it? You said Art Bell and
Larry Haber.
There was just a figment of their imagination, or was there actually a John Titor then?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. And Oliver Williams is in it up to his neck too. And Art Bell, he's attacked me so many times. I will tell you what's going on. And so, as a clone, when they basically give you consciousness and they give you your identity and your memories are implanted perfectly. They could wipe your memories, with just.
Is it like Total Recall?
Exactly. Just you could have your mind wiped, or they could implant skills and abilities. And if you're gifted with certain physical attributes, like I was, I'm very old now, but when I was younger, could run 10, 15 miles without stopping. And, like bench press more than my weight, whatever it was, which was not much. It was pretty outrageous what the capabilities were.
No, you were cloned in the future. Is what you're saying?
1977, 78, somewhere in there.
So they had the ability to clone way back then.
Yes.
Wow.
You need to go back to their first successful cloning of an animal was Dolly the
Right.
sheep.
Hmm.
And right within a couple of years of that, the United States Congress passed a law that you were not going to be allowed to clone a human being. But the military felt they were exempt. And the military, their problem was and still is that about 70% of their applicants aren't fit for military duty. You know, what they get at the recruiting office is someone that's tattooed and got a record and didn't graduate high school. And so they can't do much with that. They're looking for somebody that they can teach skills to, and that like it's not into drugs or have a record, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
that's
somebody
pretty hard to find these days.
not like me.
If you go in the recruitment office and you have a lot of tattoos and some nice body piercings, through your nose and stuff like that, they don't want you. You know that.
Right.
Do you think you have a chance at Annapolis or West Point or any of those institutions? I don't think.
No.
So that's the issue. So it's a manpower requirement. So, but they're looking for someone that can take an order and follow the order, even if it means their death, and that is not afraid of heights. Naturally, they look for people that are able to go to flight school, and once they implant memories in you, then they basically start leading you forward inch by inch and watching you mentally and evaluating you to make sure that the memory implants worked and that your body's working to the specifications that they set out, and you go forward. But they clone thousands, and a lot of them are destined for the space program, and there is a secret space program. Have no doubt about it. That's why, they can't ever balance the defense budget. I mean, they have all these black budgets, and Congress is not even allowed to question the dollar amount of those budgets. If they do, they'll get investigated.
Oh, right.
It's just craziness. But the plain fact of the matter is, what we have today is, the world sees one space program controlled by NASA, never a straight answer. And then we have another secret space program, and we're on the moon, been to Mars, exploring the stars. Oh, yes. Gone beyond the solar system. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
So, since we've been to Mars and gone beyond the solar, that means the Earth is not flat, correct? I want to hear from good.
Flat. Not. Okay. And any of these flat earther jerks, I mean, they really missed the boat somewhere. And the Earth is round.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Spherical, if you will, John.
Yes, somewhat. The Earth is a little egg-shaped,
Right.
but it is a sphere. Then, there are some other monumental things that I've learned in my lifetime that the Department of Defense doesn't like me to talk about. I'm going to talk about them. for you briefly here. They patented the TR3B. And I published the stuff on plus.google.com. And they have a U.S. patent on that airframe. That airframe doesn't require propellants. There's no fill up at the station. We're way past that. We have engines that don't need propellants. And probably one of the most sophisticated airframes we have is the TR6 Telos, which the wingspan I document in my books, and it's online too. The TR6 Telos, the wingspan is something like a football field. It's huge. And it was seen by a governor, Fife Symington, flying over Phoenix. And it's called the Phoenix Lights incident. He saw a spacecraft and reported it. And then the government said, no, you didn't. Okay? But we're going to move on from this. I digress. Here's part of my message today.
Okay.
Darwin, bless his heart, he understood evolution, okay? But it doesn't really apply to Homo sapiens because Homo sapiens, even the cloned ones, we are a created species. That design was created by extraterrestrials.
Ancient aliens?
Yes.
Steve, if you've
You
got
the
some
ancient aliens.
cloned human beings, it's got to be
And it gets better.
aliens.
The credit for this was given to the Anunnaki. Okay? And in the Bible, they're referred to as the Anakim. Okay? Now, the Anakim, for the most part, were extraterrestrials that came to Earth. And I believe that there might be very advanced, but there are more advanced extraterrestrials out there. And we're going to talk about who actually runs the United States and our NATO allies, okay? And Edward Snowden, have you heard that name before?
Absolutely.
Okay, worked for the CIA and NSA, got a hold of a couple documents. And one of them clearly showed that the United States of America is a protectorate of the tall whites. And these guys are more
Yeah, no
advanced.
shit, right?
The tall whites, yeah.
They are more advanced than the Anunnaki ever were. And the tall whites have a spaceport at something called Creech Air Force Base. It's just north of Las Vegas, Nevada. And Creech Air Force Base, I go by there regularly, and it's the most heavily defended Air Force Base on this planet. And it's all part of protecting the tall whites. And the tall whites absolutely run the government. The Russians wanted Obama to tell the American people the truth. The Iranians tried to get Obama to tell the truth. He wouldn't say a word. He was scared. Our presidents, after they get elected, within about a week, they get this straight. Who controls what? And they don't. And they haven't.
It's all,
So
the,
do you
tall,
think-
it's all the tall whites.
Yeah. Do you think that we have a better chance with the current administration?
You know, I basically told people before I even released my first book that Donald Trump was going to be president. And Bob Mitchell and Jason Quidd said, "Oh, you can't put that in the book." I said, "It's going to happen." And they said, "No, it's not." I said, "Okay." So I was writing the book, and Bob Mitchell was my editor, and Jason Quidd was doing some artwork. That's how it went. And so they took that out. They took some other stuff out I didn't like too. But I said it flat out. And later I had a public apology from Jason Quitt on that one. He said, you were right. But President Trump recently alluded to the U.S. government forming a space force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Space Force. I'm all in with the fucking Space Force, John.
And we may in the future we may see that, which it'll be, they'll divide Air Force Space Command away from more terrestrial things, and it'll become its own entity. And suddenly we'll find out that Solar Warden was real all along, and we'd spent trillions on it. And so it's all true. Hacker hacked into Department of Defense databases, and he found Solar Warden sitting on his monitor, and there it was. And yes, Solar Warden is real.
Mm.
But I have more revelations that are even greater than that for you.
Ooh.
I will tell you that this solar system, okay, is an engineered solar system. The planets, everything.
And who is it engineered by, John?
Mice?
No.
And the answer to everything is not the number 42.
Okay.
For that reference, Chris,
I was just checking. Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome, Richard.
So we live in an engineered solar system. The relationship of the moon to the Earth is an engineered relationship.
Oh, good, because I was hoping you weren't going to say it's a bisexual one.
It gets better. The moon orbits around the Earth perfectly.
Right.
And the moon, we know it's hollow. Okay? We know that extraterrestrials visit the moon constantly. Civilian astronomers have taken countless photographs of UFOs landing and taking off. And some of them, after they take off, cloak. How about that?
Hmm.
So,
how about that, Steve?
I'm all about cloaking UFOs from the moon.
But
I believe that something's going on there. I mean, we don't get pictures of the one whole side of it,
It's it's too bad we don't have
the whole thing
Bob here to this evening.
The whole thing is engineered, but there's another little fly in all this ointment that, there was a Russian physicist and his name was Kardashev. And you need to learn the Kardashev scale. And what he said, and Michio Kaku, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Kaku.
Dr. Michio Kaku?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So basically, I looked at the Kardashev scale, and so did he, and we're both of the same opinion that civilization on planet Earth, we are a level 0. The Anunnaki, probably a level 4 on the Kardashev scale, and that I think that the tall waist may be a level 6 or 7. There is nothing beyond 7, but the tall whites are definitely in control of this civilization, and the Russians and the Chinese, and I think now the North Koreans know it. And
wait a minute. Are the North Koreans in on time travel?
No.
I have a question about that. If the tall whites are in control of basically our entire civilization, why don't they just control of everything. I mean, if you said the Koreans don't know or whatever, why don't they just take control of them too, or can't they?
Let me elaborate on this a little bit, okay? Uh, we're visited by so many different species of extraterrestrials. Uh, Numbers have been bandied around. Uh, are you familiar with Paul Heyer?
Heard the name, yeah.
He's the Canadian Defense Minister,
Right.
and Paul would say, like there's 86 or 87 species. I think there's a few more, but we are not a source of amusement, but to some degree, we're like a science project. We're like looking back in time at a primitive species, and here we are. We have our cities, we have suburbia, we have our wars occasionally. We make war on each other, which is very primitive to even do that. Killing is abhorrent and primitive.
Right.
We're a very violent species. So the one thing that is not acknowledged is that in the star charts, planet Earth is deemed to be hazardous to other life forms. And what other kind of life forms come here? Well, I'm going to talk about this just briefly here about crop circles.
Mm-hmm.
And crop circles, real ones, have been observed many times. They seem to happen more than any other place on the planet in England. And when they do, what the witnesses to the crop circle being created was there are spheres, and they look like they're a stylus, if you will, and they're creating the crop circle and the message. And they're all messages.
Are you saying they're like picture pages, John?
Yes, exactly. And some are very elaborate. There's my favorite one is a gray alien that they did holding a message. But what if these orbs or the balls of light are in reality an extraterrestrial life form itself? And there's been a lot of research done on this lately. And there have been people
it's very interesting that you bring that up, John. One of the people that I love to listen to, Joe Rogan, he once brought up the alien fart theory, and what his whole take on that was. It started out as a joke, but it makes a lot of sense if you really break it down. And he said, "What if aliens are something that we can sense, a la a fart? Like we could smell that it's there, but we can't see it. What if it's something that we can't perceive?"
Well, to a very large degree, some extraterrestrials are shapeshifters, and at will they can become just like us. And it seems to be not a big thing for them. There are some extraterrestrials that look very close to us and pass for us. I can tell you that I've seen tall whites in Las Vegas walking around and in the casinos. It's not a big thing. They look a lot like us, but I think their whole way of thinking is beyond our comprehension. The brain synapses is different, faster. I believe that they can analyze things faster.
How do you distinguish the tall whites from us, John?
Usually 7 foot or better. Okay, usually. Some of them 8.5, easily. Pale complexion, blonde hair, reddish hair, blue eyes, Some look more washed out, like they're albino.
Do they have
And
differing skin tones like we do, like African American, or are they all just a pale white, and that's why they're
they're
called the tall
all
whites?
a pale white,
Okay.
and they I've not ever really been able to figure out in the Bible they talk about the Nephilim
Mm-hmm.
and the Anakim, and I'm not sure if they are the Nephilim because I think they're certainly advanced beyond the Anunnaki, and I've met the Anunnaki a few times.
So you're
So,
saying that Anunnaki still exist? I mean, they're
oh,
still here.
absolutely.
There's a guy.
Not on the
There's a
not
guy
on the
near
planet.
Cleveland. There's a guy near Cleveland. His name is Michael Lee Hill, and he
Mhm.
claims to be an Anunnaki. Are you familiar with him?
No.
Okay. Would that even be possible that somebody near Cleveland would be an Anunnaki?
Well,
Hey, listen,
here's
Steve. Cleveland rocks.
Well, it does.
Cleveland
and I'm
rock.
close, but
Let me tell you this: we all have Anunnaki genes within us.
okay.
Levi's or Wranglers?
Exactly. I would say that like our nearest DNA cousin is a chimpanzee, and they have 48 chromosomes. Okay, Homo sapiens have 46.
Orangutans are actually our closest relative.
Well, orangutan then.
Thank you for clarifying there, Sir Richard from the medieval land of Britain.
Trying to shoot down.
I hear the numbers, chimpanzee, but
John, you see, every once in a while, he comes out of his castle and gives us some shred of wisdom,
and then goes away,
and then he disappears.
And that's fine. I would just have to tell you, the way that we have a total
John,
eclipse.
We were really hoping that you were from the future because we wanted you to tell us that Great Britain was just gone.
We don't have anything against Great Britain. We just Richard's there, and so.
Well, do you want to hear the future?
Absolutely.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay. These days, my wife and I,
doesn't want to hear
we donate huge sums of money to defenders of wildlife and nature conservancy, and I've tried to raise money for them and tried to get people to contribute to my thing about cleaning up the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad fact of the matter is that the oceans are dying.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Barrier Reef died. And we have gyres in our oceans. Do you know what a gyre is? It's just a big mass of plastic and other refuse.
Oh yeah, the great garbage patch.
There you go. There's one in the Pacific, one in the Atlantic, one in the Gulf of Mexico.
Isn't the one in the Pacific like the size of fucking like Texas or some shit?
Yes. And the fish in the ocean, I don't eat fish. My wife and I, we got to a restaurant and he says, "Aren't you going to order the salmon?" I said, "No." They could tell you it came from a farm, but I don't trust it.
Right.
There are some fish that are caught in the Pacific near Japan that glow. Wonder why.
But John, sushi's good.
Yeah, I know. Forget about the worms and the radiation.
No, John, just don't think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it. And cancer rates aren't affected by radiation and worms and fish caught in the ocean.
John, don't ruin my fun.
I'm just going to tell you that the fish are contaminated.
Listen, John, I want you to know I have a really good friend that ruins my fun all the time, and his name's Phil.
Okay. Phil and I have something in common then.
Yes,
Because
today you do.
Today, yes. Normally, probably not.
I got this video clip from a diver in Indonesia, and he was diving in what used to be pristine waters off the coast of Indonesia. And there is so much refuse, you know, there. It's incredible. So the oceans are dying, and the next thing that happens is the fisheries die off. And these people in third world countries that depend on these fisheries, guess what? They go hungry. Okay? And then there's domestic unrest, and governments are toppled. Okay? And there are wars. And basically, people stop eating fish all over the world. The fishermen are out of work. The fishing fleets are sitting there not doing anything. And then we go to the other thing, air pollution. Having been to mainland China and walked on the Great Wall, I will tell you, there are whole days in Peking or Beijing, they call it Beijing, that the people are told to stay home because the air is so bad. Everybody walks around with masks over their mouth, hoping that will filter out some of the particulates, and it doesn't. They have a huge tuberculosis rate there and other ailments of the lungs because they've just ignored the environment. And they've got toxic dumps everywhere and don't know what to do with it. But, they have a booming economy. They do.
And they have dragons, John.
They very likely will due to people's DNA being mutated. But I would say ultimately that we're going to see the infrastructures in these larger countries fail under the weight of pandemics, and the medical infrastructure isn't going to be equipped to handle it. And it'll just be like dominoes.
Pandemic is like my favorite board game, John.
Since the whole John Titor, now that we know how to pronounce it,
Titor,
story that we know of involves time travel, I think maybe we should talk a little bit about it. Does time travel exist? Have you traveled in time?
Yes.
And how does that operate? How does that work?
Einstein-Rosen bridge is the best way for me to tell you how it works. But the technology, there's 3 different ways to travel through time. And you find a natural portal and step through. And there are natural portals around. I know there are locations. And going through a natural.
John, natural places to step through time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is one of them in Oregon?
No.
That's it. Never mind. It's an inside joke, John.
You asshole.
Oh, we're going there eventually here, Steve. Slow your fucking roll.
I'm sorry.
But I will tell you this. Dr. Michio Kaku, decades ago, he wrote a white paper on what it would take to build a stationary time machine, if you will, okay? And I read the white paper, and it was all based on quantum theory and mechanics. And then I got in a Jeep with my commanding officer, and he says, now we're going for a ride. And then we saw the real machine that the government had built based on his white paper. Okay? So there is a stationary time machine. Oh, yeah. And last count, the CIA told me there were about 60 people that travel through time and try to maintain the timeline for mankind. In other words, they will do things to keep us from falling off the precipice. If they can prevent a nuclear war, they do it. They can prevent a pandemic, they do it. They try to fix things. In the very beginning, it was all observe and report. And then they said that's not enough if mankind's going to survive. And we're going to get to the end of this, and we'll tell you how we're observed and who's observing us for the last 13,000 years.
Who watches the Watchmen?
Oh yeah, and so the biggest secret of all, and so that machine works, and I watched it work and participated in some testing of the machine. Then naturally, you can fly through electronic fog, and there's been some very well documented instances of electronic fog off the Florida coast. And
Bermuda Triangle.
Yes,
I'm
in the
familiar with
Bermuda.
that
John,
one.
I've been on like an Ancient Aliens loop, like seasons 1 through 11. So you're right up my alley right now.
Well, it gets better. Okay,
good.
So if you have a spacecraft that can exceed the speed of light, then you can travel in it. And does the United States of America have spacecraft that can travel greater than the speed of light?
Drum roll, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
There was no drum roll, Chris.
It was implied.
Figurative.
It was implied, Steve.
Okay.
So, and these spacecraft, the engineering not invented here. Okay.
Speaking of engineered spacecraft that weren't invented here, the technology, was Roswell real?
Yes.
Okay. That's just a side. I just wondered.
Okay. You're asking all the easy questions.
Now, well, we don't know the hard ones.
Well, there are the hard ones.
Yes.
So now I've told you that we live on an engineered planet, an engineered solar system, or an engineered species, and
we can time travel, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Well, time travel is theoretically, even to our knowledge, possible.
Steve, I want you to know that you, in fact, are a time traveler. You travel 1 second per second into the future.
Yeah. I have to ask one more question about the time travel before you go on. You said there are natural places that there's natural portals where you can walk through time. What happens if I happen to stumble upon one of those? Or would I? Are they protected?
No.
So I could just happen to I'm walking out in the forest one day, or I'm not saying they're all in the forest, it's just an example. And there's a portal there. I can travel through time just as well as you can.
Yeah.
And when you do travel through one of these portals, obviously you wouldn't get to choose where you go.
No.
Okay.
And getting back may be real difficult.
Yeah. What about the machine, the time machine? Is that dialed into a specific time period, or
it's dialed in? They program a date, time, place, and that's where you go.
And is there a machine on the other side, or the machine goes with you? Is that how that works?
No. And I really described this in my first book, plug, if you will, Authorized Chronicles of John Titor 2. And then I have the manual in there on time travel and how time travel teams are created and maintained. And there is a device that they use. And basically, when they're sent on the mission, they know that they have a point of rendezvous, and they initiate their return with a device that looks much like a cell phone.
Is that why we see in some of these old photographs people walking around and it looks like they have a cell phone? Are they time travelers? I'm sure you know which photographs I'm talking about. They come up on the internet every once in a while. There's one from the 1930s with a woman, and it looks like she's carrying a cell phone.
Yes.
So she was probably a time traveler then.
Yes.
Okay. Simple answer, but
you heard it here first, Steve.
Well, I've always
The
wondered about
Charlie
that because-
Chaplin person.
Yeah, that was a
We
Charlie
don't know if
Chaplin.
that's a. We don't know if that's a woman or a man.
It was a woman, wasn't it?
We don't know, Steve. Were you there?
No, she looked like a woman.
Were you there?
Yes, you did.
So
John,
I've seen the
now-
photograph.
Now,
Yeah.
John, here's my question. Do you know that person?
No.
No.
Okay, and then one more question I have about the natural portals. Do they
Yeah.
shift where they take you, or is it the same place every time? Is it the same time period and same place every time? In that particular portal.
I will tell you this, what I know about the one that I've not been able to research it much because it's on Indian reservation land.
Okay.
And it was first chronicled probably at turn of the century.
Can you find it on
Mhm.
Google Maps, John?
Well, I'm sure it's there.
That's what we really want to know, John.
Yeah, we want to be able
on
to find it.
Google Maps.
I think everybody would enjoy finding that thing, you know? Whether they really would after they went through it or not is a different story, but everybody thinks.
Well, I'll give you the general location: Grand Canyon, Hopi Reservation. Okay.
Although we wouldn't be allowed to go there, I'm sure.
Probably not.
There are people that have been able to make friends with the tribal elders and get free passage through the reservation. You know, it's been done. I myself have looked at the possibility of going there and going to the portal, but I'm just basically looking at the recorded history of it. And you could stand in front of the portal and see a future civilization that was nothing like what civilization was at the time. So I believe it to be a portal, and I believe that there are several that exist on this planet.
Now, John, when you went back in time,
Yes.
did you go door to door and ask women, "Are you Sarah Connor?"
See, John, we're not asking the hard questions. We're asking the silly ones.
Yeah. I went the furthest back in time at the time when I did it.
What is the furthest back you've been, John?
236 BC.
Holy Lord.
And can you divulge anything about why you went back there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I wrote about it in my book, Authorized Chronicles of John Titor too.
Oh, so we can and John, for the plug, where can folks get that wonderful book at?
eBay, Amazon, and my website.
I'm going to look it up right now.
www.johntitor.com.
I've actually been to your website, John.
Have you?
Yeah, we when we were doing some research for the show, the 5 minutes of research that I always do.
Yeah, Steve doesn't do much research for the show, John. Steve basically shows up.
Okay.
But I did go to the website.
Yeah. Okay, Steve.
But I would tell you that the story is very well chronicled in the book, and lots of people love that part of it. I think it was probably the one time where I really got bloodied and had people killed that reported to me and killed people. So it's fairly interesting.
Have you also gone to the future, and how far in the future have you been?
2050.
20, so not too far, really.
No, not too far away now. And at the time, that was the furthest anyone's been. I believe that people have gone much further in the future now. But at the time, I went to 2050, and we're 30 years in the future, basically. And my crew, when they saw what had happened to the planet, most of them dealt with it, but there were a few that got PTSD.
Oh, I bet. I bet if you did that, it would definitely cause something like that for certain people.
Well, when they saw civilization in the throes of its own demise, drowning in its own waste, pretty much, and governments falling because they couldn't control their people, and there's rampant hunger everywhere, and the water's not fit to drink because of fracking and things like this, and the oceans died. Pestilence, disease, the medical infrastructure breaks down, and that's the cornerstone of everything. What causes the civilization's demise, and then extraterrestrials just depart the planet. The science experiment's over then, and to a very large extent, sometimes I just wonder if it's all a science experiment, and I'll tell you why. Because of the Black Knight. Do you know what that is?
Heard of it?
It's been orbiting around this planet for some 13,000 years that we know of. And this vehicle, and it is a vehicle, it used to orbit from north to south, but it has orbited the planet from east to west on occasion, and I will elaborate on that. But Nikola Tesla detected communications from it, and I forget the year that he detected them, but it's on Google, and you can Google it and get the facts on it. But the Black Knight is a spacecraft. It's been up there working for a very long time. I doubt that it has a living entity in it, but we know it communicates to Epsilon Bootes, okay? And that's many light years from here. Now, when Gordon Cooper was orbiting the Earth, suddenly this thing changed orbit and started following him. And it scared the crap out of him. And he radioed to Houston and says, Houston, we have a problem. And this thing was following him, and he didn't know what the hell to do. And eventually it stopped following him and went back to the north to south orbit around the Earth. And so we are observed at a great distance by an extraterrestrial species that is on the Kardashev scale, I believe to be a level 7. Let me explain to you what this is. That means that a sentient being at level 7, whatever it thinks to create, it's just created.
Richard would like to know how much experience points it needs to get to level 8.
Well, you need to use more than 10% of your brain, I'll tell you that.
Oh, Richard doesn't even use 3%, so.
Okay, so that I can tell you for a fact. So these beings are very close to being supreme beings as we believe they exist. Okay? No one should think that there is only one. I believe there are many. But that's the reality we live in. You know, like no government on this planet has ever attempted to dock with the Black Knight or intercept it. Oh no. If you do, that is an act of aggression that may be dealt with very harshly. Mark my words. So nobody
John,
bothers.
Are you ready to accept the robot overlords as I am?
I think that you need to accept the fact that mankind as a species
is doomed.
No, well, I would say this. that we actually have off-world colonies, and the thing is, you go to an exoplanet that has a similar composition to what the Earth is, and you set up a base. And for the first few decades, they're just sending freighters to the planet to get the colony up to speed where it can be self-sufficient. And then finally, it gets to be self-sufficient. So when mankind dies here, mankind will be carried on other places. Now, I would tell you also that for a while it was noted, and I've written about this, that people within the sciences and the academic world, like suddenly there was a car crash and their life was cut short. There was a closed casket ceremony and they're gone. But maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they're offered an opportunity to work on an off-world colony, and they're told that mankind's life expectancy here is only another 30, 40 years, but if they play ball, they can go to this new colony where it's a new world, and maybe we won't make the same mistakes about using plastics and polluting the oceans and polluting the groundwater and the air, those kinds of things, So yes, there's a big disparity, and then the other thing is, you need to know that there have been millions of people that have just disappeared in national forests, and you need to read or even listen to the YouTubes Missing 411.
Oh, we're very familiar.
Oh, Mr. Titor is a David fan?
I think.
Oh, what happened? What happened to Mr. Titor? Did we lose him? Oh,
I think
we
he
here
his
at
phone.
Fortean Slip would like to take this opportunity to remind the fans that we do not endorse David Paulides in any way, shape, or form.
Speak for yourself, Richard. We're not. I've actually spoken to Mr. Paulides before, and I think have you, Chris?
no, I've never had the opportunity.
It didn't go well, and it was just on a private messaging on Facebook and stuff. He and I disagreed on a subject. And, yeah. What's that?
He wouldn't talk to you?
Oh no, he talked to me. He just didn't like what I had to say, and it was not on his Missing 411 books. It was something else, but we made up and became the best of friends. Not really.
It's totally correct.
Well, he may be, but yeah, he and I just didn't.
So, your take on the Missing 411 is that Bigfoot is abducting people?
Not Bigfoot.
Well,
not Bigfoot.
Paulides is very careful not to say that. He never says Bigfoot is abducting people. People make theories about that.
And the people that are abducted are found on tops of mountains, a considerable distance away.
Mm-hmm.
What else could have done that? And that many times when the people are abducted, their clothes are found, and that's all. It's not, and the clothes aren't torn to shreds by animals or anything. So one of the big black market things in space are cyborgs, and you can take a person and turn them into a cyborg within about 24 hours.
Whoa! There's cyborgs?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I don't know that that's nice. Why would you want to be a cyborg?
Well, let's
let the man
go
speak.
down that path. I'll explain it to you. Now, Elon Musk. He's a big advocate of cyborgs.
He's not Iron Man.
Elon Musk is fucking Iron Man, Richard. You shut your fucking whore mouth. You listen to John Titor right now.
So he wants people to be implanted with electrical devices so that their output can be increased dynamically. And I'm categorically opposed to it.
Yeah, I would be too.
And I will tell you that's the fastest way for a human being to lose their soul, because it'll get to a point in the not too distant future when they control you. Okay? And basically you just do what they tell you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want a future like that.
But think about this. The military, the US military, is very interested in cyborgs, because if you tell a cyborg to conduct a mission to go do something as basic as killing another being, they will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about that. There's no remorse in it. There's no soul searching before they do the act. They just do it. So, yeah, cyborgs are a hot item with the military.
Do they already exist then? I mean, people
I
are
believe that testing has been conducted
I'm sure it has some
as a
influence.
black project, and I believe that probably at Dulce Base.
So Dulce gets blamed for a lot of things, but you're saying, a lot of that actually does go on there.
Yes. After I was informed that I was nothing but a clone, and I'd been relieved of my command, and I basically had the ability to fly there and look at the operation, I realized what was going on. It was a little upsetting at the time. And then someone said to me, that was very close to me, said that I had exceeded all their expectations for what a human would be, and that my actions define who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, John,
I've lived with that.
I have a question from the chat room.
Yes.
It's not bad.
Were
you an adult when you came out of the clone vat?
I was aged to about year 27 years old, something like that.
And that was in the 70s?
Yep.
Okay.
So what is your quote unquote physical age now?
I think that going backwards and forwards in time and space travel that I've done, the best guess is that I am some 71, 72 years of age, and have undergone surgeries to replace various parts of my body.
Okay. Now another question, and this kind of relates to something that the original or the other or whatever you want to call it, John Titor, I don't know how you want to refer to that, had made mention of. When you time travel, does the mechanism that you use automatically compensate for the fact that the planet you're on is moving and in orbit while you're moving through time?
You're talking about G-force dampening. Yes. The spacecraft creates its own gravitational pull, and you don't feel the G-forces. You just don't.
Okay.
But, like you can look down and see the Earth. TR-3Bs have been photographed from the ISS, and those photos are available on Google and Google Images. It's a triangular-based craft.
Now, do you know where the other clone John Titors are kept, and why are you privy to the knowledge and allowed to be alive? Are the other clones expendable?
Well, let's get to that.
Okay.
Usually, they're all given different names, but I was given that name specifically, and I think they were laughing when they did it. They said, "We're going to really throw a wrench into the whole thing and just call this one John Titor." And there had been another one, and that may have been part of it too. I don't know, but he was deceased, And from what I understand, he distinguished himself very well. But all of the clones were deemed to be expendable and given missions where it was very likely that they would not survive. So that's all part of it. And they just said, like, okay, the first Packard died, so we're going to make another Packard, and here he is, okay, and it came to be. I lived in that timeline to 2036. I was very old to be in the Air Force and command of anything, and they basically had relieved me of command, not for any misconduct or malfeasance of duties or anything. They just said, "You're done." And so I was worried they were just going to dig a shallow grave for me. No retirement, just a bullet in the head. And
fucking casino style, like fucking Joe Pesci gets.
Yeah, maybe a little nicer. I don't know. And so I looked around and I was thinking, what could I do? Where could I go? And so I actually asked a friend to give me a ride back in time to the year 2000, thereabouts. And I wanted to be with this girl that I knew when I was training. And she'd already gotten out. And I thought I would just go and be with her. And that all worked. And she had a house in suburbia, and I moved in with her, and we lived in suburbia, and all was quiet and good. And then there was a knock at the door, and it wasn't the men in black suits, but they basically said that they were my handlers, and they knew that I was using another name, and they said that I was to go to a meeting at Edwards Air Force Base.
John, can you get me some handlers for Steve?
I need handled. I need handled.
And now, after about a decade of handlers and getting a few fired, they will tell you what to do and when to do it, and not to do this and not to make any statements about time travel. I just said, what are you going to do?
Fuck them.
And
basically, right?
Well, there have been some astronauts that, before they died, they said, yeah, we talked to the extraterrestrials and, we saw them and they're on the moon. And, Edward Meacham, didn't he say that? Edward Mitchell.
I believe he made some reference to it, yeah.
And Buzz Aldrin, too. And Story Musgrave, they've all come out and said it. Story Musgrave said that he talked to one extraterrestrial that was quite tall. And obviously, I thought to be a great alien, but I would have to talk to him about that. I would say that if you read my first book, you'll know that I had held something back from the government, and I've sat on it for years. And so you read the book, and you'll find out.
So you basically made yourself an untouchable because they don't want that out.
I will tell you that I was given a mission by a member of the Joint Chief, and he said, send a team back in time, and I want you to look at a series of assassinations. I said, okay. No problem. We'll send the teams back. They'll observe and report. He says, yes, and that's all I want them to do. But I want all the leads followed up. And he said, JFK, RFK, MLK, Malcolm X, and this director of the CIA that was found drowned. I could look up his name for you real quick.
Gotta go dig through the files now.
That's right.
Okay.
He's got it all right there, Steve.
William Colby.
Right.
We looked at his assassination. And basically we used eavesdropping equipment and photographs, and we compiled the reports, I had actually been to the Texas School Book Depository. I wanted to go and look at if I could have made the shot myself with an Italian Carcano rifle that hit JFK in the back of the head. And I realized it's an impossible shot. And he was shot from the front of the motorcade.
Do we know who did it? I mean, who
Well-
actually pulled the trigger, not necessarily who was behind the whole thing.
The grassy knoll guy. Come on.
Yeah, who
Come on,
was the
John.
grassy knoll guy?
Give it to us.
Talk about it in the book. I give you all the details, but I will tell you this, that George Herbert Walker Bush was in Dallas that day
Yes, he,
and photographed in front of the Dallas Police Department.
Now, I disagree. These guys disagree with me on the JFK assassination case, but I've always been firmly of the opinion that Oswald didn't have enough time or the right opportunity based on what I know of the case. Now, I could be 100% wrong, but you've been there, so.
We're not fucking doing this again. Shut up,
Okay,
Steve.
okay, then I'll change subjects. Okay, I'll change subjects, Richard.
Richard, did the man's head go back into the left? That's right.
Yeah. Now listen to me, Richard.
Don't enable him, Chris. Don't enable him.
Listen. I have questions about two mysterious deaths that occurred, one in the 70s and one in the 80s, and I don't know if you have any information, but I have to ask because I'm going to.
Okay.
Right.
Did
We're going
Elvis
down
really
this
die? And number two, did Andy Kaufman really die? And I'm more worried about Andy Kaufman.
Oh,
I'm serious.
Andy Kaufman's dead. Elvis
No.
is dead.
Yeah, they're both dead, Steve. You're fucked.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
take
Elvis
that.
has got to be dead by now.
Well, fucking Elvis died on the fucking toilet, dude. He was giving that girl fucking cough syrup shooters.
That's not the story.
Steve, listen.
Oh, that's not even close to the story.
We've all heard the
Well,
story,
he did
Steve.
die on the toilet, allegedly. Okay, now I'm going to disagree with Mr. Titor on that one. I think Elvis didn't die, and I think Andy Kaufman's still alive. So
You think whatever you want, Steve.
listen, I'm a huge Andy Kaufman fan. If anybody could have pulled it off, it was him.
So, but
All right,
the
so
whole thing
John,
is,
the last thing we want to get to, we want to make sure we at least touch on this. It is, and we touched on, you had spoken about it before the show, and it's one of the things that got us into doing this was our complete disgust for the Bigfoot community. And we had talked to you, and you said that Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature.
I believe so.
You believe so. And what is your reasoning for believing that Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature?
It's a species that had a dead end and did not evolve past a certain point, okay, in its physical presence. You know what I mean? It's a hairy ape-like species. But the plain fact of the matter is they have the ability to practically vanish in front of people. So that leads me to believe that they have that ability, that they can move in and out of the dimension. In other words, they're standing there and they say, oh, there's a group of people coming, and I'll move out of their way, and I'll just be like, how can I explain this? Out of phase with the time that they're in when they walk by, so they can't see me.
Oh, settle down, Richard. Settle down.
Is that Richard making the noise?
Yes.
Richard kind of disagrees with that sentiment, so
It's a very self-defense mechanism. You know, Bigfoot's been seen many times, and it's been hit by automobiles and other things, and people basically think it's dead, and they turn their backs on it, and it's gone. Okay. Now there was someone that shot one and put it in a freezer. And then what happened to the remains is ultimately up in the air. No one knows what really happened there.
Rick Dyer?
What?
No, we know what happened with that one. John, the gentleman actually admitted everything that happened with that.
Oh, he might be talking about another one there.
He could be. He could be.
He better be. Rick Dyer and I go way back. So we're not going to go into that.
So that's, like, you need to look at reality that we live in and know that somewhere around the 1950s.
Know that you know that you need mushrooms?
Yeah, some days.
Yeah.
Let the man finish, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
The thing is that somewhere around the 1950s, this government signed an agreement with extraterrestrials, and the United States of America became a protectorate of that extraterrestrial species that are the tall whites. And they took what was Indian Springs Gunnery Range, and they dug out a huge underground base there for the tall whites. And it is the most heavily defended base, Creech Air Force Base on this planet. They have drones that take off. You can watch them from the freeway patrolling the airspace. It's a fantastic place, but getting in, there's 2 rows of chain link fence with concertina wire to get over before you can get past anything. And then there's the guard gates and everything. But I'm going to visit Little Ailey Inn in the very near future. And it's up on the back door of Area 51. And when you're up there, your compass doesn't work in your car, and neither does your cell phone.
Well,
you hear that, Steve? It's like the zone of silence, Steve.
How am I going to do my eBay stuff?
That's right. When we go to Area 51 on our bus trip.
Well, can we take John along with us?
John, you have to go with us.
I would.
John,
oh, you don't know
about
John, let me explain to you. This might take a little while.
No.
Steve asked me. Well, no, he didn't. I just gave him the information. What I wanted for my birthday. And I said, because we've been doing this show for almost 5 years now. On August 18th, this show will be 5 years old.
Wow.
And I said to Steve, I said, I want to get a VW bus.
It was old school.
Old school. And I want to travel around the country to different Fortean spots, i.e. like the Serpent Mounds, cryptozoology museums, Bigfoot museums, Area 51, Roswell, things of that nature. But that Steve has to drive the bus, and I'm allowed to do copious amounts of drugs in the back.
No,
and
that's not right.
Just ultimate debauchery. And
no debauchery. I agreed to do it without the debauchery.
And we film it and put it on YouTube.
Well, I go on little investigative tours. My last tour was to look for flesh-eating reptilians in Arizona, and all I did was find 3-man military teams in civilian clothes already there hunting them down.
Was there any debauchery, though? Because I don't want debauchery.
No debauchery.
Well, there you go.
Civilians
see, John, this is my birthday wish.
Yeah, not mine. And my birthday came first.
But Steve, you get to drive the bus.
I know. That is a great deal. I mean,
right.
How come you can't drive a nice motorhome?
Oh, no.
No. We have to do this with a VW bus. This is the way it has to happen.
See, John, I own a VW.
Magic bus.
No.
I own a VW, John. I own a 1970 Beetle, and I've always wanted a bus, so that's where that came in.
Oh,
So
you can
I put
rent
the
a motorhome even. I mean, it's
right.
just
Well, I see. I
John
put the
wants to travel in style, Chris.
I know he does, but see, I put the VW bus in there for Steve,
Yeah, he
obviously,
did. I mean, yeah,
and
that was nice of him.
because I thought it was a nice, hippie kind of retro magic
I
bus.
can't invite you on my expeditions then.
Why?
We don't do drugs. There's no debauchery.
Aha.
But John,
You don't get
John,
to go, Chris.
listen, listen. You'll definitely talk to aliens if you take about a quarter ounce of mushrooms.
Yeah,
I
you would.
swear to God, you will.
No.
All right, Chris. We're not supposed to talk about that on this show.
No, we're not doing it.
John thinks like I do, and I like that.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
do that
John's
stuff.
John's a straight edge guy. I respect
He
that.
is.
And
You
those.
don't respect me.
But Steve, you're my co-host.
So you've never been to Rachel, Nevada?
Have I?
Yeah.
I have not been to Rachel, Nevada. I have been to Arizona, the Grand Canyon.
The Area 51 Museum?
No, I have not been there. I've been to Las Vegas.
Why don't you tell him that you went to the site of a Bigfoot shooting, Chris?
Yes, I did. I went to the supposed site of a Bigfoot slaying.
Where?
The Sierra Kills site.
Sierra Nevadas.
No. What's that?
What's the name of the shooter?
Justin Smeha.
Okay. And what happened to the body?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
He buried them and then forgot where he buried them.
That's what he said. Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. Eventually, somebody's going to shoot one of these things and it'll stay dead and stay put. But
Well, let's hope so.
I believe that there's never just one by itself.
Oh, no, he
they're
shot
more
two that
likely to pick up their dead and punish those that have killed them.
And
So-
John, I've also been to the site of a Bigfoot sighting on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State.
Yeah.
I spent a weekend researching with a very reputable gentleman by the name of Phil Poling.
Yeah.
And
Phil Pullen, some say that it's
shut the fuck up, Richard. And there, I can't. Kurt, was it Kurt something or Kirk?
Oh, you can't even remember who you were with.
No, I can't remember the guy's
That's
name.
why
But
you got to stop with the mushrooms and stuff.
no, that had nothing to do with it. But anyway, I'd also done that, and I have been out on actual expeditions, and I have done, tried to see what real research is. And for the most part, I find it to be just bullshit. The stuff that I've gone out on that people have done, not so much, not like what I saw Phil doing or what I saw some of these other people doing, but just overall the research field.
The ability of the researchers that, at least in the Bigfoot community, because that's where we all came from originally, just is lacking for the most part.
So
Well,
that's why that's why I
process.
wanted to go down the Bigfoot road with you, because you had brought up the fact that they were interdimensional.
think of interdimensional in the terms of a chameleon changing its color to blend in. Look at it that way.
So not so much that they are actual shifting into another dimension, but they're just like not being seen.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're there, but they're not.
I could buy that a little more than interdimensional beings. But then again, we don't know everything either.
Yeah, I don't know everything.
But I think that's more of what we're seeing here. So their physical presence, their physical being, they didn't evolve, they didn't progress, but they may be very intelligent and have a language, but we've not come across anything as far as writing or anything that we could say these were tools used by Bigfoot, have we?
No.
Bigfoot uses tools?
Well, not Bigfoot. allegedly, does not make tools. Bigfoot uses, allegedly, tools, like sticks and things to do things, but doesn't make them.
Tool making is a real sign of being a higher primate.
Right.
Dr. Leakey would back me up on that one. But, I think that eventually we'll discover that that's where Bigfoot really lies, that they are there.
And Dr. Leary would back me up on the magic bus.
No, we're done with the magic mushroom stuff. Come on.
So I'm going to go to Rachel, Nevada this coming week. Then I'm going to go to Lovelock Cave.
Ooh, I'd love to go there.
And that's a very interesting place. And they found giant skeletons there. And there's been some revisions on the findings of what they found there. I had seen skulls with double rows of teeth and told that it came from Lovelock Cave. And now I'm being told those don't exist. So one of the other things that happens is revision to the timeline. It happens all the time. We're told something one day, and then the next day we're told something else. And in the media, it's very hard to detect.
Now, does this have anything to do with the Mandela effect, John?
I don't put that down to the Mandela effect or the butterfly effect. I'm putting it down to, if you go back in time and change something, then you're going to change the future occasionally, and hopefully for the better. And time travel that is conducted by the U.S. government and other entities, that's what it's about. It's preserving mankind and the timeline. If we could prevent a nuclear war, I think that I talk about that in my first book, how we could do it. You should do it.
How many books have you written, John?
2, and I have one more that it's going to come out probably later this year. I don't make a fortune off the book, but I will tell you that I got a great refund on my taxes this year.
As did I.
But it wasn't about that. I had a compulsion to write a book, and it was just crazy. I was on Facebook. Let me explain to you how I got on Facebook. I was listening to Art Bell and Oliver Williams talk about John Titor one day, and I had been using another name that the government said I had to use, and they would let me live in suburbia. And they were saying John Titor this and John Titor that. And I said, what? I mean, there's so much misinformation here. And so I talked to my wife about it. I was just furious. And she said, well, you could go on the internet and try Facebook. And so I started one Facebook page. And after about 6 months, I closed that page down. I just got so discouraged. I said, I can't do this. And so then what happened was people would email me and say, we really want you to talk about this or do that. And so I opened up the Facebook page again. And then I had this young hacker contact me. His name was Jason Quitt. And the first thing he did was he pissed me off and I blocked him. And I didn't think about it anymore. And a few months later, this guy by the name of Bob Mitchell contacted me and introduced me to Jason Quitt again. Mm-hmm. And they said, we want to write a book with you. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And can you write about things that no one else has heard before? I said, no problem. No one's heard the truth before anyway. So I wrote the book, and Bob Mitchell was supposed to edit it, but he was dying of cancer. Mm. And he was having tremendous trouble doing what he was supposed to be doing, using spell check on my work and making sure my grammar was right. And then Jason Quitt seemed to have no trouble doing the graphics. And ultimately, the book was published. I went on George Nuri, and it was an overnight bestseller. And then Bob Mitchell died. And then the next thing I heard was, and I wasn't really getting any royalties at all. And Bob Mitchell died. And then I heard that the money, that was being split 3 ways, was going to go to his widow, and I had no problem with that. But his son, Jason Mitchell, was going to be the third partner then. And then Jason Quitt went around telling everybody in the extraterrestrial, UFO, paranormal world that he didn't have to pay me anymore because he knew my government cover name. And so I got him on the phone. I said, "Did you say that?" And he swore, "Oh, no, I never said that." And then the next thing I know is because he has my signature, he forges my name on a contract with a German publication, Amra Verlag and Records. And they published tens of thousands of books, and it went from softcover to hardcover in Europe in German. And I've never seen a penny of that money. And so then I reported Michael Nagula, the editor of Amra Verlag and Records, to Interpol. And then suddenly, just recently, I got a statement from him saying how much the book is made, and I should give him my social security number and other personal information, and that he would pass that on to Jason Quitt, and they would try to get me a payment on royalties. And that's never happened. I've never been paid.
Well,
so the book that I sell is under my name alone, and the title is different. I sell authorized Chronicles of John Titor II, and I wrote one book in 2017. I published continued Chronicles of John Titor II.
And I looked them up. They're both available on eBay.
What?
I said I looked them up. They're both available on eBay. And are you the person who's actually selling them on eBay?
Yeah. That's all me. There's no fulfillment in there. I do my own fulfillment. Okay. I sit here with my wife, and we put them in the envelopes and take them to the post office.
You sell on Amazon as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I send them all over the world. It was interesting, like the first few books that I sent to Moscow, Russia, and then I sent some to Tel Aviv, Israel, and I've sent them to just about every country on the planet, and with the exception of Syria and North Korea, they don't seem to buy them there.
Syrian rebels, they are.
Yeah. And I've had several movie producers approach me, and they say, this is just like a Star Wars story. I said, well, I didn't really intend for it to be like that, but it could be. A weekly TV series, yeah, you could probably do that.
That'd be cool. I'd watch. That's for damn sure.
Damn Skippy.
Fascinating. It's fascinating stuff.
But what I try to do is I try to publish some facts and in little tidbits on plus.google.com under my white papers. And then I like doing guided tours. I like taking groups out. I'm going to Rachel, Nevada, and then on to Lovelock, and then we'll come back by way of Creech Air Force Base and watch what goes on there. It's just amazing. If you look up the Tall Whites or Creech Air Force Base on YouTube, there's been a lot of research that's been done. That's where the Tall Whites basically conduct their business. That's their spaceport.
Well, if you ever get to Ohio, John, hit me up. We'll hang out. We'll go get some coffee.
If you want to,
what's that?
If you want to come out here sometime and hang out, my next big adventure will be to Chaco Canyon, which is nothing more than an extraterrestrial space colony that failed. That's what Chaco Canyon is.
Fucking ancient aliens, Steve. I fucking told you this for so long, and you didn't believe me.
I don't believe you, but I believe John. So there.
Wow. And on that note,
hey, I got to mention one more thing, John. Are you familiar with the Solomon Spaulding story? If you're into the giants and things like that, it has to do with that.
Giants on the earth, absolutely.
Okay, well, Solomon Spaulding was actually writing about the town that I live in here in Ohio, and it has to do with the mound builders and all that stuff. So if you ever get a chance, look that stuff up. And
I know that in the Ohio River Valley, there have been a lot of giant skeletons unearthed.
Right, and right here in the town that I live in, allegedly there were quite a few. But anyway,
and what happens is they get sent off to the Smithsonian Institute. And here's what happens. The Smithsonian Institute is part of the federal government. Don't ever think they're going to tell the truth.
Here's my opinion about the federal government. I would never trust them to do any government program. When's the last time one succeeded? Any government program, succeeded as in like healthcare and that kind of stuff. None.
MK Ultra did all right.
Well, yeah, for them it did. But anyway, Chris, I think you wanted to end the show, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap this up, John. We've gone
it's been fascinating,
a little long tonight, but yeah, it's been fascinating. It's been great. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been the Fortean Slip, episode 25. I am gonna go with John Titor revealed.
Titor.
Titor. I'm sorry. John Titor revealed because I think we revealed some shit tonight.
We did.
I think you guys should come out with me and go to Rachel, Nevada, to the Little Ailey Inn, and we'll hang out there for a couple days in a nice motorhome.
Well, you had me until you got the motorhome.
Photograph some very.
I'll tell you what, John, if there's any way at some point in time that Steve and I can come out to do an investigation with you,
absolutely,
we would be down. But yeah, if you like this shit, hit the little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out Richard's comic strip on Facebook, Bigfootin' with Keith and Colin. Check out Matt Knapp at youtube.com/bigfootcrossroads. Check out Phil Poling at youtube.com/parabreakdown. And as always, check out our good friend Dred Funn at dredfun.com and youtube.com/dredfun. I don't know how we come back next week after this.
This is it. I think we're done.
Yeah. But
can we ask John what his website is one more time?
Yes, John, plug yourself one last time.
www.johntitori.com.
And that is that. See ya.